happens if you try to beat Animal Hospital without using any coffee or chocolate? Well, that is what happens when you try to get the no coffee, no chocolate badge, and it is easily one of the hardest achievements in the journal. So today, I'm taking it on. The problem is, those are the main items to restore your sanity. So to survive this challenge, I first need to figure out alternative ways to keep my sanity up without them, and at the same time, speedrun every shift as fast as possible. So, will I actually pull this off, or lose my mind trying? Let's get started. Before we even step foot into Shift 1, we have to talk about character choice because picking the wrong class ruins the entire run before it even starts. Since we are banned from coffee and chocolate, we need a character that naturally heals sanity. Look at Doctor and Surgeon. You would think getting sanity back every time you heal a patient sounds awesome, right? But it is actually a complete trap. Healing a patient means diagnosing them, grabbing medicine, walking them to a bed, and waiting through a super slow healing process. That wastes so much time, and the longer you stay in a shift, the more sanity you naturally lose. We need to speedrun this game, not sit around playing Real Hospital. So both of them are out. What about the secretary? She gets 1 sanity point back every time she checks someone in at the desk. That sounds okay early on, but later in the game, it completely falls apart. When Shift 10 hits and you have 8 patients rushing you at once alongside monsters and map hazards, getting 1 tiny point of sanity per check-in is like trying to put out a forest fire with a squirt gun. It is just way too weak. I also thought about using Firefighter. Putting out fires gives you huge chunks of sanity back, and you can even let rooms burn to skip dealing with patients. But Firefighter relies totally on random fire spawns. In the first few shifts, fires barely ever happen. If you get unlucky with spawns early on, you will lose before you even see a single flame. So that leaves us with the absolute king of this challenge, in my opinion, of course, the Secret Agent. His ability is kinda broken. Every time you shoot and take down a monster with your gun, you instantly get 4 sanity points back. That instantly clears the monster, gives you 4 free sanity points, and moves the shift forward. And if a normal human patient is being annoying or passed out on the floor, shooting them knocks them out so you can pick them up and chuck them straight into the hallway trash bin to clear up space. Secret Agent gives us quick clears, free sanity, and total safety. I locked in Secret Agent and jumped right into the game with skipping the doctor dialogue option, of course. Starting off in Shift 1, I spawn in with a starting sanity level of 62%. That is already fairly low for a fresh run, so I have to act fast. Right off the bat, there is a patient sitting calmly in the lobby waiting area. Instead of doing a standard check-in, I immediately pull out my gun, shoot the patient, and carry them into the treatment room to cure them properly. Why did I do that if I just said curing takes too long? Because in Shift 1, you need starting capital. Curing this specific initial patient gives me the starting money I desperately need to buy upgrades later. Plus, the first few dialogues take forever to load, so it's not that much time I wasted. Once that is taken care of, I sprint back to the desk, quickly check in the next 2 patients to wrap up the quota, and push straight into Shift 2. To survive moving around the facility between desks and rooms, I immediately adopt my primary defense mechanic against anomalies, especially stalkers. I keep my camera angled strictly down at the floor while walking. In Animal Hospital, stalkers are lethal anomalies that spawn unexpectedly in hallways and trigger massive 10% sanity-draining jump scares if you make direct line-of-sight eye contact with them. By staring at my own shoes while navigating the corridors, I completely negate their sightlines and bypass their jump scares. Shift 2 begins, and the shutter controls and security camera systems are now officially online. The very first customer to step up to the front desk is an anomaly disguised as a patient. This is exactly what I was waiting for. I hit the approve button on the check-in panel, immediately draw my Secret Agent sidearm, and execute it right at the counter. The shot is done, giving me a free shift progression point, eliminating the patient from my workload, and granting me 4 points of sanity. It feels amazing. However, overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer. As I turn around to sprint back toward the secondary check-in station, I get reckless. I lift my camera angle up for just 2 seconds to see where I am going, and a stalker happens to be standing right around the corner, and I take an immediate 10-point penalty to my sanity bar. That single mistake wiped out the gains from my last 2 anomaly kills. To end Shift 2, the final patient to walk up is Ron with his unskippable dialogue lines. I briefly considered rejecting his check-in just to save time, but my cash reserves were still a bit tight, so I sat through his endless talking, checked him in, and finished the shift. Shift 3 brings a massive milestone. The supply shop finally opens up for business. Going into this shift, I had aggressively hoarded my cash and accumulated over $190. I sprinted straight to the shop terminal and bought the second check-in desk upgrade immediately. Having 2 operational check-in booths completely changes the pace of the game because it allows you to process incoming patients at double the speed, effectively cutting your shift duration in half. During Shift 3, a total of 6 patients arrived at the facility, and Lady Luck was on my side. 4 out of those 6 patients were anomalies. I checked each one in, pulled my trigger 4 times, and collected a massive 16 points of sanity back to back. My sanity bar zoomed right back up to where it was at the start of the game. However, staring at my inventory, I realized a glaring problem. I had consumed almost all of my starting ammunition. The secret agent does regenerate 1 bullet per round passively, but relying solely on gun execution was consuming bullets far faster than they could naturally replenish. Shooting everything was not going to be a sustainable long-term strategy. If I wanted to survive the mid to late game, I needed to hunt for mint tea in the supply shop. Entering Shift 4, the patient volume ramps up significantly. A total of 8 patients flood the hospital. Analyzing the crowd, I identify 4 anomalies, 2 unconscious human patients, and 2 standard sick patients. I handle the 4 anomalies using my standard check-in and execute method. For the rest, I only end up actually curing 2 people. Ron, who needed surgery, and 1 normal patient in the standard ward. As I completed Ron's operation, a notification popped up reminding me that completing a surgical procedure awards 1 point of sanity. That got my brain turning. Is there a consistent trick to manipulate patients and force every normal patient into the surgery room just to farm extra sanity? If anyone knows about this, please let me know in the comments. Shift 5 was an emergency shift, and this is where I unleashed one of the most broken, high-speed routing tricks available to the secret agent. During emergency shifts, patients do not walk up to the desk politely. They come sprinting down the main lobby hallway in a desperate panic. Most of the time, we try to usher them into rooms as fast as possible, but that takes way too long and creates absolute chaos. Instead, I stood right in the middle of the lobby hallway, drew my secret agent firearm, and turned the corridor into a firing range. As the panic-stricken patients came running toward me, I fired a bullet into every single one of them as they passed. If the patient sprinting at me was a disguised anomaly, the bullet instantly ended them and flooded my bar with free sanity. If the patient running at me was a normal, innocent human, the bullet did not end them, but it instantly knocked them unconscious onto the floor. As soon as a normal patient collapsed, I dropped my gun, picked up their limp, unconscious body, carried them 3 steps to the right, and dumped them directly into the lobby trash can. In just over 60 seconds, the entire emergency shift was completely wiped out while I did not diagnose a single case. My sanity bar did not suffer at all. In fact, it surged straight up to 75%. To make things even sweeter, when I walked out to check the supply shop terminal after the shift, the shop RNG blessed me with a fresh cup of mint tea. I purchased it immediately and stashed it in my inventory as my emergency safety net. Moving into Shifts 6 through 11, I still am able to keep up with everything thanks to my passive, though not without some unexpected bump. In Shift 6, I got careless near a patient bed and got grabbed by a bed monster, taking a nasty chunk of sanity damage before I could break free. In Shift 8, the shop restocked, allowing me to purchase a second mint tea, giving me a massive buffer for the impending late-game nightmare. Shift 9, however, threw a massive wrench into my momentum. A normal human patient is glitched and I can't get their DNA sample. With my shift timer ticking down and passive sanity slowly bleeding away, I had no choice but drew my sidearm and ended them on the spot. Unfortunately, despite gaining 1 passive bullet back at the start of each round, my constant emergency shooting was finally catching up to me. My ammunition reserves were officially sitting in the red. Post-shift, I was forced to drink one of my precious mint teas just to stabilize my sanity bar. Shift 10 brought yet another high-pressure emergency shift. With my ammo stash almost completely depleted, I used every single bullet I had left to pull off the hallway shooting trick once again. It worked for the most part, but because I ran out of bullets midway through the rush, 2 patients slipped past me into the back wards. I had to spend 3 agonizing minutes manually dealing with them and cleaning up the mess. Despite the chaos, I managed to wrap up Shift 11 in what looked like an incredibly strong position. I was sitting comfortably at 69% sanity, I had 1 full mint tea left in my pouch, and my confidence was sky high. I genuinely thought I had this achievement locked in the bag. That was until Shift 12 started, bringing the dreaded slime event with it. And to make matters a million times worse, this slime event was catastrophically, game-breakingly bugged. To be fair, my original plan for the slime event was standard. Keep my distance from Slimebert, process check-ins as fast as possible, and carry cough syrup in my hand at all times to counter that slime monster if he manages to sneak up on me. However, the game has a different plan. Slimebert's dialogue box randomly popped up right in the middle of my screen, reading text as if he was talking to me at the front desk, even though there was literally no one standing at the check-in booth. Confused, I stepped out of the check-in booth to investigate the lobby. The second my character's foot crossed the doorway, my camera locked up, and my character entered a chewing animation. Slimebert was completely invisible. The game had failed to render his character model, meaning an invisible entity was standing right outside my door, chewing on my face with 0 visual or audio warning. Before I could even react, my sanity bar collapsed from 69% straight down to 32%. Panicking, I scrambled back to the supply cabinet, grabbed a cough syrup, and held it in my hands for protection. I went back to the front desk and managed to check in the next arriving customer. But as I turned around to walk toward room 6, the cough syrup in my hands literally vanished into thin air. The invisible Slimebert had struck a second time. Thank goodness I was holding that cough syrup, because if I had not been holding it, that invisible attack would have instantly drained my remaining sanity and deleted the run right then and there. Right at that exact same time, a stalker suddenly walked right through the front doors, heading toward the check-in desk. Remembering my plan at the start, I instantly slammed my camera straight down into the floorboards while doing all the check-in for the poor girl, successfully driving the stalker away without losing a single drop of sanity. I breathed a brief sigh of relief and lifted my camera back up, only to witness something utterly absurd. A ghost patient was hovering in the hallway, choking and thrashing in midair. It turned out the invisible Slimebert was currently trying to devour the ghost. Realizing this was my chance, I equipped the fire extinguisher and sprayed the floating ghost with freezing foam. The chemical reaction worked, melting the invisible Slimebert away. With the immediate threats cleared, I finished checking in the remaining queue. I was out of cough syrup, so I turned around to sprint back to the medical cabinet to grab another one for safety. But the moment I took 2 steps, Slimebert, or another invisible instance of him, grabbed me yet again. My character was chewed on for the 3rd time in a single shift. My sanity plummeted down to a terrifying 21%. As my character finally broke free and woke up from the attack animation, I turned my camera slightly to the right, and a stalker was standing inches from my face. There it goes, my sanity bar was sitting at a pathetic, microscopic 11%. My entire run had been decimated in a matter of 2 minutes. My mint tea was gone, my cough syrups were gone, my bullets were down to 1 single shell, and my sanity was hanging by a literal thread, all because of some invisible entity glitches. Entering Shift 13, I was in full survival mode. My heart was pounding in my chest. I opened up the supply shop terminal, praying to every random number generator god in existence for a mint tea or an ammo refill crate. The shop interface loaded up and there was 0 mint tea, 0 ammo crates. The shop RNG had completely screwed me over. All I had in my entire possession was 1 single default bullet that regenerated at the start of the shift, and my close-range taser. I knew that taking even a single hit from anything, a bed monster, a stalker, would instantly end the run. I played Shift 13 with the absolute highest level of sweat and focus I have ever mustered in this game. I used my 1 bullet to execute the first anomaly, used my taser to stun and bypass anything else in my path, and cleared the check-in queue at breakneck speed. Miraculously, through pure adrenaline and sheer willpower, I survived Shift 13 without taking a single hit, keeping me alive with that tiny 11% sanity bar alive. I limped into the shop transition before Shift 14, knowing this was my final stand. The shop was refreshed, but still, no mint tea, or gun, or anything to restore sanity. Within 40 seconds of the shift starting, the natural passive sanity decay ticked down and the run ended. It is honestly so heartbreaking to lose a run that was planned out so perfectly, purely because the game decided to spawn an invisible, bugged Slimebert that ate 60% of my sanity bar through solid walls with 0 counterplay. Planning can only take you so far when the game decides to unleash game-breaking glitches on you. But I want to hear from you guys. Looking at how brutal this run was, which class do you genuinely think is the absolute best pick for tackling the no coffee, no chocolate achievement? And more importantly, have any of you found a reliable way to deal with the slime shift when Slimebert decides to go completely invisible and break the game? Drop your thoughts, strategies, and tips in the comment section down below. That is going to wrap it up for today's video. If you enjoyed watching me slowly lose my mind in Animal Hospital, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more challenge runs. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.